I'm Chris Lynch, and we've got a guest, a first-timer making a debut on the show. My friend, I recruited him to go and write with us at Inside Hockey. His name is Jason Scales. You might know him a little bit better from his blog, which he shares on the Twitter and the Instagram world as Pucking Off, which is funny and a little bit profane and belies the fact that he's actually quite a mature and intelligent guy. Jason, how you doing, man?
Hey, Chris. I'm well. Yourself?
Well, you know, it's one of the best weekends of the year when we get to talk about championship weekend and stuff. So this is to be exciting, I think.
Oh, I can't wait. This is going to be one heck of a weekend with all these awesome games coming up.
Agreed. Let's start off with one of the more disappointing pieces of the week so far, which is this report coming out of Miami from Oxford, Ohio, in which Miami head coach Enrico Blasi has apparently been relieved of duty as the head coach of the Red Hawks. This is from CHN. I only took a look at this. I don't know when exactly this went up, but this was posted today. After making the NCAA Tournament 10 times in 12 years, including 2 Frozen Fours in 2009 and 2010, the Red Hawks have been under 500 for the last 4 years, including this year, in which they went 11-23-4, which was the worst record of his career over 20 years. He had signed a contract extension last summer, which would take him through 2023. His contract had a buyout clause. He could fire him with no cause and pay him the equivalent of 1 year's salary plus other factors, which is worth about $400,000. So this is a pretty big overhaul, and this is really quite a shame for a really well-respected coach who they had famously that there's a note of in 2009, Miami famously was 1 minute away from a national championship, up 2 goals against Boston University before the Terriers rallied to win in overtime. And I still watch that stuff every so often, but that's a sad way for a great coach, Rico Blasi, to go out, I think. But I understand why. It's just this is one of the unfortunate parts of the business and the job.
Yeah, and I wonder if being involved in the NCHC is kind of what led to that, because they haven't been that good for the last few years. I think it's just such a talented conference that, it's not put together the same way that, when they were with the other conference and it was more successful. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, in the old CCHA before they were forced. I don't know how willing they were or how interested and eager they were to make that jump, but you're probably right. It probably does have at least something to do with the departure and to do with the change in dynamics, it's really had a much bigger impact on stuff than I think the Big Ten creation had the biggest impact on the WCHA. The CCHA doesn't exist anymore, but. But yeah,
right.
I only got to see Rico coach. I saw him once this season. It was a UNH Miami game in which Miami, I think at the time, was ranked, and they were scuffling going into it. They fell out of the rankings after that weekend series in which I was only at the first game. It was right the Friday after Thanksgiving, and they had UNH had tied the game in the last minute.
Yeah, we were both at that game.
That's right. We were both at that same game. Right. Were you at game 2 of that series as well?
No. I went somewhere else. I can't remember where, but I think UNH, they seem to be the road bump that Miami never recovered from.
Yeah.
Because after that, their years kind of fell apart. I know they had injuries too, key players and whatnot, but it's sad when what I remember most is that Rico loved your hat.
I mean, it's a distinguishing feature, and oh my God. Yeah. So I'm taking a look at the schedule right now that they had in January. They lost every single game except one, and they tied at Providence. They won 2 games. They won 2 games in February. They won 2 games in February, one against Nebraska Omaha and one at Denver, which is a miracle that they won at Denver. And then after their win on the 22nd, they lost every single game the remainder of the season.
It's a tough conference. I mean, and that's why we have, 3 of the last defending national champions from the NCHC. It's stacked pretty much top to bottom, and if you're at the bottom, forget about it.
Mm-hmm.
It is a shame that he's leaving it, but it sounds like from the way that the contract is portrayed and what you read, they knew that this could be an option if there's such a significant insignificant buyout. I mean, not that I wish I was getting bought out at $400,000, but considering what they could be buying him out for to fire him so quickly into the new contract, I'm sure it could have been a lot more expensive.
Yeah, considering what people like your boy Greg Carvel are making, which is I think a little bit more than the $400,000, but or what my friend Albie. And by the way, let's just pretty much each person that has been on. Tim was obviously a Northeastern person. I'm a BU person. Josh is the most neutral person of the New England Hockey Journal that I've brought on so far. We've had North Dakota people on. You are a maroon or crimson jersey fan of being a Harvard and in your youth Harvard, and you're currently doing some classes at UMass Amherst. So you are having the best time of your life at this point. So lucky you.
Yeah, I mean this is a dream season so far. And for a while too, some of the bracketologists had UMass and Harvard facing off in round 1, and it doesn't look that way now. So I'm much relieved because I'm kind of hoping to save that for like a final as opposed to round 1.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
but
I could certainly see that being a thing that we end up seeing later on in the tournament. I haven't seen the newest bracketology. I'll pull up what the newest thing looked like because we had ourselves kind of an interesting weekend in the semifinals, in which there were a lot of teams whose bubbles entirely burst. There were some people who ran into a lot of problems in their weekend performance. And let's start with the games that we ended up seeing. I was in Amherst the first 2 nights of the weekend proper, where I saw UMass win 2 games over New Hampshire. And the first one, it was a 5-4 overtime game, and UMass really played a lot better than UNH did for the duration of that game. The problem was Matt Murray was the absolute worst he's looked all season, and he looked like he looked at parts like he was a below average junior goaltender, not a college goaltender. So he ran into.
I was going to say that I know that people have their questions about Matt Murray, and that's understandable. I think that this season he's played above and beyond expectations, and I just hope that's a one-time blip, and that he hasn't fallen back to earth, because now is the worst time to possibly fall back to earth. I would have much preferred he had done it in November, as opposed to now in mid-March, late March. So, I don't know. I mean, hopefully it's just one of the things, like I said, it's a flip. And it's pretty nice when you can fall back on Lindbergh as your backup goaltender. So we'll see how that goes. He certainly played much better. He played better, in game 2 of that series, shutting them out.
Yeah, I'll agree with that, is that he did a very, very nice job, Lindbergh. And he's had kind of an up-and-down season. Murray played so well in November and won the first 10 games or so that he played. Lindbergh wasn't going to get much of an opportunity. He played a couple ones, and he played, I think, the 2 losses that UMass had at Ohio State and at Quinnipiac. And it's not fair to pin those losses on him, because you're going up against the, at the time, number 1 and at the time number 8 ranked teams in the nation, both of whom will be in the NCAA tournament. both of whom are also not playing in their conference championship weekend, and we'll get there. But but it's just it's a really interesting place to be. I think it's a really interesting setup in which the team just. Then he went off to the World Juniors and did very well with Team Finland, and then he went off to and then he went off and had a great big fun time with all the people at UMass, and then he got sick, and then he came on this weekend. He allowed one goal on. I think he made 14 saves, or no, he faced 14 shots the first game in, which went to double overtime, and he played basically half the game and looked okay. For parts of it, he was never asked to be spectacular. The second game, same kind of deal. He was never asked to be spectacular, but he did it, and he had some. He looks good, and he's going to have to be good going into TD Garden because he's facing a kind of renewed Boston College team that you got to see on Sunday, and it looks like these guys actually might kind of know that they might be what a lot of people thought they would be at the start of the season. I won't say wanted to be because, disclaimer, I'm a Boston University person. I'm not a Boston College person. And our other friend here currently is a fan of a Beanpot team that is not Boston College. So I think you know where his loyalties do not lie. Having gotten that out of the way, your thoughts on seeing BC play on Sunday and very possibly throwing an enormous wrench into Providence's schedule and hopes at a tournament bid.
Yeah, it's certainly, I think my prediction for that series was that Providence would win in Oswego, that it was going to go 3, every game would be close, and ultimately Providence would prevail. I had most of it right except for the actual winner. And Boston College certainly looked like they have finally, woken it up, gotten their act together. I don't know how you want to put it, but they have finally found whatever it is they've been missing all year. And that's not to say that it's been a bad year. I know they have an amount of losses that they're not used to, but a lot of their losses were one-goal games, close games where, they didn't get the bounce of the puck, But now it looks like Joe Wall is playing like Joe Wall. And, they had 3 guys out injured that have each contributed to their overall success. McBain, and, I can't remember who the third person was that didn't play this weekend, or at least didn't play on Sunday. But they took it to Providence. They scored first in every game. They just looked really sharp. And, yes, after the game, Nate Lehman didn't think that his team will make the NCAA tournament. He thinks that they have a very hard chance of qualifying now because they're out. I think the pairwise predicting tools and stuff still have them at like 75% of being in. So they'll probably get in. I don't know if he was just being a pessimist or what, but certainly if BC holds on and knocks off UMass, I guess that kind of bodes well for Providence because, BC's favorability will go up with every win, correct?
Okay, so Providence is in a really precarious position. So the most updated pairwise I've got. Let's take care of some other business first, of the teams that have guaranteed themselves a spot in. There are 10 teams that I think we can go ahead and just punch them in. These guys are going to be playing in the NCAA tournament. This is not. This is from the 10th seed up to the 1 seed. Arizona State, Clarkson Northeastern, Ohio State, Denver, Quinnipiac, Minnesota Duluth, Minnesota State, UMass, and St. Cloud State are all in. Guaranteed.
Correct.
Then we will get an automatic qualifier from the Atlantic Hockey, which will be either American International, Niagara, Robert Morris, or RIT. And then we'll get and I think of those, it'll be AIC. We'll talk about that a little bit later on.
Same
I think.
here. Yeah.
We think AIC will get to move on.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I just think they're the cream of the crop in that conference.
Yeah. Oh, before we get a little bit too far away from that series, I want to just spend a little bit of time talking about. There's a tweet that Mike McMahon put out after, because he got to cover the game against Army last night. I didn't see if he was at the series, but he had a very, very respectful tweet at the end of it. Eric Lang, the head coach of AIC, had the following line about the Army seniors. The thing about it is for those guys, it's over. There's no going to play in the AHL or going to play in the ECHL. They lace them up for real now when they defend our nation. Those guys are everything that is right about our country. So, yeah. And both military schools were defeated, and Air Force was knocked out in a shocking upset to Niagara. And that ends one of the better reigns we've seen and one of the better teams and one of the more entertaining runs that I've gotten to see over the last couple of years.
Yeah, it'll be interesting not having Air Force in the tournament this year.
Yeah,
they've been spoiled the last couple of years.
I'll miss Frank Serratori being here. He'll get back at some point.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's probably just a 1-year blip.
Probably. But very briefly, the good seniors who from both Air Force and from West Point, who will be going to serve in our nation's military, you have our greatest respects. You have our greatest thanks for the work that you do and the work that you will do to defend our country. So,
absolutely, thank you very much.
You are the best men that this nation can possibly produce, and we have the greatest amount of respect for you guys. So I had, we have to give that kind of respect towards people like that.
Mm-hmm.
So just wanted
better men than us, that's for sure. At least myself, anyway. Better men than me.
Okay, so what do we have? So those are the spots we have taken care of. And then there's also going to be the Big Ten winner. And that one, this is where things kind of start to get a little hairy for Providence. The Friars are ranked 14th right now. It does also look likely that that your guys from Harvard, who are ranked 12th, and Cornell, who's ranked 11th, it looks like those guys will likely be going to the tournament. Bowling Green is the next. Go ahead.
Yep, I'm here. No, I was just agreeing with you.
Okay.
Cornell and Harvard should be in.
Yeah, unless something weird or cataclysmic happens. Bowling Green is next down that list at 13, and I think 13 and below is where it becomes tenuous. Providence is 14, and one of Notre Dame or Penn State is guaranteed going to the tournament because they're in the Big Ten championship, and they get an automatic qualifier bid into the dance. So Providence has not a lot of room, and they need for neither BU nor BC to go ahead and win Hockey East, because if one of those guys wins it, then they are in very deep waters because there aren't many spots to get in. And if Brown somehow pulls off winning the ECAC tournament, they're completely cooked.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, this is where go ahead.
No, I was going to say, as good as the Brown story is, I think it ends Friday.
You think so?
But I do, yeah. But I mean, I guess we can talk about that later.
Mm-hmm.
I just think in regards to it being a spoiler for Providence, I don't think that's where Providence needs to worry.
Mm-hmm. So you think it's with the events that will happen in TD Garden on Friday and Saturday, and how BU and BC end up doing, because they are as of right now the biggest Northeastern and UMass fans possible. Because if both of those two teams, who currently are the cream of the crop in Hockey East, if both of those teams win and play in the championship game on Saturday night, then neither BU nor BC has an opportunity or any possible reason that you can justify them getting into the tournament. So that reopens the door in order to get Providence back in, which it would be a shame for Providence for them to not make it after the good year that they've had.
Yeah, I mean, they've basically been, in my eyes, the second best team in Hockey East all year. I know that's not where they're. Is that where they finished? I'm drawing a blank.
They
didn't finish that.
They got the second seed with a tiebreaker over Northeastern.
Tiebreaker, okay.
But I still think I still think Northeastern has been the second best team in the conference, and at least in my humble estimation.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely one of the two. Personally, I have Providence as being better. I'd have to double check what the head-to-head was between the two. Obviously, if they got the tiebreaker, it was better. But I do. I think that for Providence, it's going to come down to what happened to TD and also the Big Ten. Where is Notre Dame in regards to pairwise?
Well, Notre Dame, not by much. Notre Dame is 15 with .5400 in their RPI rankings. Penn State is 16 with .5399.
Yeah, all right. So there's like razor thin between the three of them.
Correct. Providence, for the record, is ahead of Notre Dame. .5425 is their difference, and it isn't by much. So I think that
I was thinking maybe Notre Dame might still be one of those teams on the bubble that can get in, even if they lost to Penn State. But now that I think of it, they probably wouldn't. They probably need to win to get in.
Well, it'll be razor thin for them. That whoever wins gets guaranteed in, and whoever loses is likely out. But we've seen complete madness happen before. I mean, we got to BU, the way that they were playing in January last year, had absolutely no right of being in the Hockey East Championship, and la-di-da, they went ahead and won the thing. And I guess I'll transition into me getting to see the end of. I saw a rather boring end to what was a really fun series between Lowell and BU, and I have to bring up the box score for the absurd stuff that went down on Saturday night between these teams because dude, there were 99 penalty minutes between these two teams.
Yeah, that's insane.
Well,
that is just insane. That's like
what happened was Lucas Condata checked Bobo Carpenter from behind and into the boards, and that started off a whole great big Donnybrook, and fights just spiraled out, and it was a spectacular thing. And that Condata hit was 8 seconds from the end of regulation, after Nick Master had scored to make it 6-4. That goal came earlier on, but the game was pretty much decided. It was a 2-goal difference with 8 seconds left. BU wasn't going to tie. Jake Ottinger had a very bad night, allowing 6 goals on 25 shots faced. Tyler Wall looked pretty good, 27 saves, 4 shots faced. And it was a really raucous game on Saturday night. And Albie had the note of, we came out motivated to win on Sunday, and, well, they did, in fact, win on Sunday. Jake Ottinger looked very good, except for one Kenny Hausinger top shot goal. And UMass Lowell, throw them on the pile of their season is done. And they're one of the tragedies of this year, I think.
You think so?
They won 10. They had points in 10 consecutive games. I think they got up as high as ranked 9th in the country, and they swept UMass Amherst.
Yeah, I mean, I know that they took it to Amherst both games this year, but I and maybe I'm just thinking because they've had such a stacked roster in years past, and last year was a down year. I thought that they would just be slightly better. Mm-hmm. Than last year. So I thought they were kind of punching above their own weight.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think last season they were it's weird for me to take a look at what they were in the 17-18 season, because they were a Frozen Four team in 2017. They were a Frozen Four team that did not play in the Frozen Four because Notre Dame had a slightly better goaltender and a top center who, in Anders Bjork, was the best skater on the ice. But every other piece of Lowell's team, I got to talk to Dick Umili for a season preview before the last season, which ended up being his last one, and that tournament game was held in Manchester between Notre Dame and Lowell for the right to go to Chicago for the Frozen Four. And I asked Umili about that game, if he got to watch it, and he said, I was shocked. I was shocked that Lowell ended up losing, because Lowell was a Frozen Four team the whole year.
Yeah, right.
And it's very hard to get over a loss like that. So they had an up and down season last year, and then this one, they rolled in 12 additional freshmen, and they had as rocky a start as possible. I think they were 3-3 at the end of October. They were a little bit better at the end of November. They didn't have a good December. They were outstanding for a month and a half, and then they scuffled at the end of it. So I just think it's a tragedy that a team that probably should have been a 20-plus win team in Hockey East, if they hadn't have stumbled as early as they were, it's just a tragedy that they're not going to be moving on to the NCAA tournament, and it's their own fault in a lot of ways. But they take a lot of comfort in knowing that only 5 of their players are graduating. Note one of those is Chris Hernberg in net, and Tyler Wall is going to have to revert to freshman form for his last season. And it's a really odd position that they find themselves in, I think. And I maintain it's one of the tragedies of college hockey that they didn't have as great a season as they could have. I guess I shouldn't say should have, but this team could have been a lot better than what it ended up being, I think.
Mm-hmm. No, that all makes sense. That all makes sense. I would, I certainly think next year is probably going to be their year. But that's not for today's podcast.
Yeah. And also, there's so many things that could end up changing. I mean, a year ago today, this season is being held basically a week later because, last year UMass was just some team that happened to have 2 good defensemen and not a whole lot else. And, they were being laughed at large. And I got to watch, so being in that presser with Greg Carvel after Game 2 on Saturday night in Amherst, that guy has bought in to his program in a way that I don't think many people have bought into any sort of project that they've ever had. He bought into that school. He bought into that operation. And he was emotional. He teared up about the fact that it's probably Cale Makar's last game that he played on Saturday, and that and all this team has accomplished. He teared up. He got emotional, and he looked like a guy who's as proud as a human being can be of any group of what they've ever accomplished.
Oh, I can only imagine. I mean, after every game, no matter what they've done, when they've, I don't want to say silence the critics, but when they've done all the things that nobody expected them to do, he's had such a level head about it. Yeah. When they were ranked number 1 for the first time in program history, it's just a number. It doesn't mean anything. We'll probably lose our next game. You know what I mean? Like, that was the type of attitude that he had. And, now that it's here, to be in postseason and so close to a Hockey East title, NCAA appearance, a number 1 seed, it's not quite time to maybe shed those tears yet, but you can certainly understand why, because it has been such a historic season.
Yeah. And
I mean, the future is bright for that program. I mean, it really is. I wasn't a huge fan of his signing at the time. Mm-hmm. That was just more my own. I wanted just a bigger name, but thank God. Do you know what I mean? Just because he's just handled everything the right way. You know what I mean? Like, just, and obviously having Makar commit to the school has just been probably the greatest thing since sliced bread because, without him, there's still a quality team, but they're not in first place.
Yeah.
Eighth, seventh, sixth, who knows? Do you know what I mean? But
I mean, Mario Ferraro is the number one defenseman on any team other than where Cale Makar is playing.
Correct. Right.
In fact,
No.
In fact, it depends. So if you're looking for total package skill and puck movement, you obviously take Makar over Ferraro. But if you're looking for power and strength, and those two are what you want, Ferraro's the stronger player. Ferraro is the bigger player. Ferraro is, in some ways, is a better old school defender and better old school person because he still has a cannon of a shot and probably should have won.
Yeah.
He probably should have had the game winner in that double overtime game against UNH. But Ferraro's a number one defenseman on pretty much every single team in the nation, with the possible exception, well, obviously of his own team because Cale Makar is there, with the exception of possibly Northeastern with how good Jeremy Davies has been, possibly Providence with Jacob Bryson, and possibly St. Cloud with Jimmy Schultz out there. But and maybe with Duluth with Scotty Perunovic and all the stuff he can do. But that's almost every single team that he goes to.
One more team. One more team.
What one?
You can add Harvard to that.
Oh, yeah.
Harvard.
Foxy is, okay, fair enough. With, Fox and Ferraro just play different styles of game. And
I know.
I still say, who would you want to run your power play? You obviously take Foxy. Who do you want to anchor your blue line and play a more defensive game? If you say any name other than Mario Ferraro in that situation, Makar can do that. Ferraro is better at that part of it specifically. Makar is better at pretty much everything else as well. So,
I know what you mean.
Yeah, and then Pritchard's been a revelation on that team. John Leonard has his highlight self. He'll probably get some magnificent highlight goal on TD Garden Ice because that's the kind of player he is. It's the kind of team where, they look like they're built to win this year, and it's a program that looks like it's built to win for a long time coming. Puck University will continue after a brief word.
Life is about making decisions. At BMW I, we decided it was time to reinvent the car from the ground up, making sure we were open for truly innovative ideas. We decided that the car we wanted must be electric, and it should be made of extremely light and super strong carbon fiber. And finally, we decided to make it more intelligent and added our promise of incomparable driving pleasure. We made all these decisions to offer you a choice. The all-electric BMW i3.
But let's transition over to a very subtle reference in your guys at Harvard. And if I weren't a BU person, I'd be a Harvard person. So my dad's team. So you got to see a very fun series between Harvard and the funniest Twitter handle in all of college hockey and really all of sport Twitter. Our friends at Dartmouth, whom Pat Salvis, who runs that Twitter handle, is even so good as to tweet while he's skating in the game and taking Harvard to task for. Okay, no, he's not quite that good. He's not quite that good. I like him dearly.
He is
but
great.
Yeah, he's spectacular.
Oh yeah,
he's just not quite good enough to be able to skate and also play as well. Not quite how that works.
As much as I wanted to see a different game on Sunday, just to broaden the horizon, so to speak, I really did want that series to go 3 because those were just two teams that I wanted to see in Lake Placid. And it's just a shame that only one of them could go.
Yeah.
Because Dartmouth is probably, to me, the most underrated team in the country.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's because they're just up in the deep woods of Hanover, New Hampshire, or what it is, but that line that they have of O'Connor, Foreman, and Graver, they're just unbelievable. And the goaltending that they've gotten all year from Adrian Clark has been phenomenal. So I didn't want to see their season end. I did predict Dartmouth to win in 3, and that was more a reflection of Harvard's goaltending. And the Harvard fan in me is so happy that I was wrong, and I'm just trying to be objectionable.
Sure.
And not be a blatant homer, but Gwinnett, he worries me, and every game you go in, every time you see somebody wind up to take a shot, oh, here we go, But I mean, he's getting the job done, and he has the support of his coach and the support of his team, and you can see that they're feeding off of it as a team too. So I think that bodes well for them going forward.
Yeah, I just feel so bad for Michael Lackey.
Yeah,
to have such a good season and then to not be able to play in your postseason series. Have you heard about what his where his health is at right now? Could he play at Lake Placid, or could he play in the NCAAs?
From what I've heard, and this was last week, was that he was day to day. And that that was the best that I got, was that he was day to day.
Okay.
But when I was there, I'm trying to remember which night it was that I seen him hobbling around on crutches. It was either Friday or Saturday. So I don't think he's any closer to coming back. I think that they're going to have to ride Gwinnett for as long as they can. Maybe with the extra week, putting it into late April, mid-April almost. If they were fortunate enough to get that far to Buffalo, maybe. But by then, do you change?
I mean,
you know what I mean?
If he's
that
good,
at the point where, I mean, even if he was ready for this weekend, do you do it? Because is he really ready? You know what I mean? He's missed 3 weeks. So, but I mean, I asked Cresco and Fox at the post game on Saturday. How for guys like us that sit up in the box, the question was, can Lackey get the job done at the beginning of the year? And Lackey has gotten the job done. So, obviously that hurts. And now the question is, can Gwinnett get the job done? And he is. And, how does that affect the guys? Because, they see him every day. They know what he's like in practice. And, they have complete faith in him. So, I think even for a school like Harvard, if you're playing Division I hockey, you have talent. So he's obviously good enough to be there and to get the nod over, say, Derek Shadegg. So, I mean, I think they'll go as far as he'll take them.
I think that's probably fair.
But I mean, and it really was a great series. Back and forth, the pace of play. I mean, it was just up and down the ice. Chance here, chance there. Each goalie was up to the task, and you didn't really know which way it was going to go. They were close games, and personally, I think that Dartmouth kind of got robbed. They did score with 14 seconds left going into the third period, and the play was called no goal. And, after review, it stood as a no goal. But Foreman stole the puck, raced in, and got a shot off on Gwinnett, and the rebound was poked in by Hessler. And they called goalie interference on Foreman, but it's kind of, the way that the play was going, they were both going across the crease. And Foreman did make contact, but I thought that was more like of a hockey play than goalie interference. So, I mean, that would have changed it. It would have been 4-3 going into the third, and maybe there would have been hockey on Sunday in Alston.
And teams do play differently if they have the lead or if they're trailing and all that stuff. So that's certainly a possibility. But I guess I didn't see the play. I didn't get to go to that series. I didn't see the play. I still haven't seen the play, so I will refrain from talking about it. But I will I will take your judgment on it that it was at least a controversial one and one that I will look up when I get the opportunity to, if tape of it exists somewhere out there.
Yeah,
in the ether.
if it exists. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Drew O'Connor.
Yeah, I mean,
O'Connor finishes in 34 games played with 17 goals. I think that's either 1 or 2 for freshman scorers for goal scoring. And he had a spectacular year. And here's the thing about Dartmouth that they should be very happy about. So many of their guys are coming back for another round. I mean, Hessler will be gone, Connor Yao will be gone, Alex Jasek will be gone, Kevin Killistoff and Cameron Roth will be gone. But a lot of their big guys, like Adrian Clark was going to be back, Foreman will be back, O'Connor will be back, Graber will be back, Matt Baker will be back around, Jeffrey Lasorda will be better, and Colin Rutherford and Shane Seller will be around. I think part of the reason why Dartmouth is an underrated team is because there are some losses on that ledger this season that are really, really, really bad. So they lost 7-1 at home against Princeton in their second game of the season. They lost 3-2 to St. Lawrence in the postseason, and I mean no disrespect to St. Lawrence, but they lost to St. Lawrence in a series that should have been a sweep against the worst team in the ECAC by far. I'm sorry, guys. I have to harp on this one.
No, but I mean, I was at that game too, and Daniel Manella played a hell of a game in goal for St. Lawrence. That was the proverbial Rin to goalie. He started the next night and they shellacked him. So,
okay,
I know what you mean. But at the same time, though, I think that's a pretty decent Princeton squad. That they have the offensive capability to put up big numbers, and sometimes you know how it is. It's just you catch your team right, and either they're gonna whack you or you're gonna whack them, and it might not be how you really are, but but yeah, I know what you mean. Like they do have some loss, but they did beat Quinnipiac.
They did.
They beat Harvard. They did lose to UNH. But yeah, it's why they play the games, I guess.
And I feel like I should note as well that the 3 top guys from Princeton are now all in the NHL. Ryan Kuffner was signed to the Red Wings. Josh Teves was signed to the Vancouver Canucks, who continue their trend of bringing in a lot of college hockey guys. And Max Veronneau is signed to the Ottawa Senators. And I hope for their sake, for Ottawa's sake, that they actually have a player on their team now, because I think Ottawa barely counts as a hockey team. So
even with your boy Tkachuk?
Tkachuk should have never gone to the NHL this year. He absolutely should not have gone. Look. I love Brady Tkachuk, and also, pardon me for a momentary rant on Boston University. This team should be a 20-plus win team and should be a lock to make the NCAA tournament. BU should not be barely scraping into the NCAA tournament again if they make it there after a potentially magical run, which is the only way that they're possibly going to be able to pull this off. There's no reason, with all this talent on the ice, that they should be this up and down, this much of a roller coaster, that terrible in October, that middling in November, that okay and pretty good for most of January, that god-awful for the early stretch of February, and then what was it on the weekend and then they got embarrassed at Maine, and then they come back and they win against Lowell in a series and they get a chance at Northeastern. This team is 9 lives. Their mascot is a terrier. Their spirit animal is a cat because they never die. pardon me for my rant, but I'm annoyed by my school. I like that I get to see them at TD Garden this weekend, but this isn't good for us, guys. Please just win.
Yeah, no, I mean, when you have that type of talent, and I think the same goes for Boston College. I mean, if you look up and down the roster of all the schools in Hockey East, BC and BU every year, especially this year, 1 and 2 in talent, 1A and 1B, why they don't get it done, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, what, are they too talented? Almost to the point, you know what I'm saying? Like, where they think, oh, we'll get it together. We'll get it together. Because that's been their MO the last couple of years.
Yeah.
4-star, get it together, and...
Yeah, both fan bases were thinking in years prior, you know what was better? When we dominated the entire year and won national championships. That was was more fun when they actually decided to show up and play the entire season. And much as I'm not a BC fan, you can't treat Jerry York like that. Play that terribly for Jerry York that early on in the season, show up that little and do that little, and then still get lucky because Jerry York coaches you to another championship game and because you decided to play for him for about 3 weeks. You can't do that to him. And I'm not a BC fan, but you can't do that to greatness. And Jerry York is the greatest college hockey coach of all time in the same way. You can't do that to Albie O'Connell. He's thrown into an impossible position, and there's people like you questioning if O'Connell's the right guy for the job, which, by the way, let's talk about that for a second here. I think that Albie's the right coach for the job. I think he's the right guy for the position, and I think that he's got a chance to win Hockey East his first year as head coach of the team. And he recruited so much of this team to be at BU.
Yeah. No, I think that it's one of them things where I think it's a tough situation for any coach, never mind a first-year coach. Yeah. You have all that talent, and you have how many true freshmen are on that team? How many legitimate 18-year-old kids, and they have to go out and play 22-year-old sophomores, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that is something that goes against BC and BU every year because they're in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think maybe it was more so at the time. I just wanted to see them get McEachran, and I know he's just a high school prep school coach.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But he's had good success. He had success as a player. Albie just doesn't do it for me. And I think sometimes just in interviews after games and stuff, I don't know, maybe he's just too even keel. Like, I don't see him at practice during the week. Like, if he rips into the guys and, you know what I mean? If he raises his voice, it's almost like, is he just that proverbial assistant coach? He's the good guy.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and, I mean, obviously, I know he's not preceding Coach Parker, but, when you've had somebody in an institution for 40 years that could be, the guy that gives you a hug with one hand and has the knife in the other hand.
And don't forget Quinny either. And don't forget Quinny either in this whole operation.
No, I know that, right. But, I mean, Quinn at least could be scary. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just those crazy bloodshot eyes that he always has. But
here's the way I would describe Quinny, and the way I've really grown to describe Quinny. He always looks like he's getting off a magazine shoot, and he steps off, and he walks to you, and he just says, well, we want to play hockey. We want to rule the world. I'm David Quinn, and you love me, and we're going to go win hockey games. We're going to go win championships because I'm as charismatic as is possible, and we're going to go win stuff. Quinny and Albie are both hockey lifers and both guys who will give their left leg and their arm to go try and win games and win championships. Quinny is a lot smoother than pretty much everyone I've ever watched. There's a funny story from when he first got the BU job, and people gave him trouble for always having so much gel in his hair, which he does have a lot of gel in his hair. And Quinney's response was, hey, you try looking as good as me when you're my age. Which, that's a power play move that can only work if it's true. And hot diggity, it's true with him. So you're going
as a man crush. Oh yeah.
Hey, who wouldn't want to be David Quinn? Who wouldn't want to be David Quinn, making a lot of money, coaching hockey, winning games, and being in New York City? Well, nowadays being in New York City, much to the dismay of us BU fans. So, so Albie is a hockey lifer, but he's a Saudi rink rat. He's not actually from Saudi, but he's a lot different. And so I think we're expecting him to be David Quinn when he's not David Quinn, and no one is. And he's not Jack Parker, and no one is Jack Parker. So I think allow him to have a little bit more time. And also, he recruited this entire team, basically. He recruited
which is why I also find it to be like, well, what the hell is going on? Do you know what I mean?
Tkachuk should have never left, and he left an enormous hole. The entire top line of Melanson and Greenway, who were both expected to leave, and then Tkachuk on the left. Tkachuk should have never left, and he was a shockingly late departure. So that threw their whole lineup. So that threw their lineup into a lot of turmoil and a lot of mess. So
yeah, but then you see the way that say Barabee plays, where it's lights out goal one game, nothing the next game, lights out goal the next game, nothing. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, ask Joel Farabee.
No, I know, but I'm saying his departure doesn't have that much effect on the current. I know what you mean, what you're saying, but I think like there's just still so much talent on that team that Chuck could have left.
Yeah,
and you still thought top 4 finish.
I mean,
you know what I mean? What did they finish?
5th.
5th. Oh, 5th. All right.
So it's not that much further down. They had an opportunity to finish 4th and have home ice against Lowell, except they got shellacked by Maine in their last game of the season. And because they have 9 lives, they will get to play in the Hockey East semifinals, a.k.a. the Beanpot plus UMass. So, and the other part of the Beanpot is in Lake Placid, which, by the way, you will be at that tournament at Lake Placid. So, so let's start to wrap this up. And I know we didn't get out west that much for long-form discussions other than talking about Rico, but let's take a look around what the games are this weekend. Let's do first the games that we know. These are the tournament championships for their conference. And we start the Big Ten. The Penn State Nittany Lions will play at Compton Family Ice Arena against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Jason Scales, who do you think will win that hockey game?
Penn State.
Penn State. I think Notre Dame. And maybe that's because my own bias, because Penn State is a very fun offense, and they have a paper-thin defense. I would rather see a team that actually plays a complete package game. And also, I like Notre Dame, and this is at Notre Dame, in a building where they did this last year, hosted the Big Ten championship game, and beat Ohio State to get there. And this is a Notre Dame team that is seasoned and veteran and has been through the worst of it and has been on deep tournament runs that really only Duluth has been. That Duluth and Denver are the only two that have been there further, and those are the only teams who've beaten Notre Dame when it counts the most. So I'm taking Notre Dame on home ice. Puck drop will be at 8 p.m. in South Bend for that game. Switching gears, the WCHA championship game will be in Mankato, Minnesota, at the Verizon Wireless Center between the Mavericks of Minnesota State and the Falcons of Bowling Green. Jason Scales, you believe that the team that will win is?
My head says Mankato, my heart says Bowling Green. If that's the case, then I'm gonna have to go with Mankato.
Mankato. I'm gonna agree with and go with Mankato at the expressed opposition of my head, because Mankato has had a bad record when it comes to getting into these parts of the tournament in the last couple seasons, and Bowling Green has been knocking and banging on the door for the last couple years trying to break it down, and so I could see them pulling the upset, but I will go with Mankato against possibly my better judgment. Then we have
I want Bowling Green.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that. I want Bowling Green.
I can understand that. I think you're probably right about that one. Okay, the NCHC. The first semifinal game is Colorado College, who defeats Western Michigan and sends Andy Murray and the Broncos home. They get to face St. Cloud State. And then Denver will face Minnesota Duluth in a rematch of the 2017 National Championship game, with some obvious changes in a whole bunch of their personnel and one of the head coaches. And those four teams will be competing in an absolute bloodbath, and please forgive me for my inability to speak English, for the NCHC Tournament Championship at the Xcel Energy Center in St. Paul, Minnesota. Jason Scales, of these four teams, who plays in the championship game and who wins the championship game?
I think that it will be St. Cloud versus Duluth, with Duluth winning.
Okay. I think it will be St. Cloud and Denver, and I think St. Cloud wins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just, I don't see Colorado College putting up a fight against St. Cloud. I think the Denver and Duluth game is going to be, like you said, a bloodbath. I just think Duluth has, I don't know, they just have what it takes when it comes into tournament of any type. So, I don't care if it's the Ledyard Classic or the NCAA final, which, if there's a chance, there's Duluth. So, I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's probably fair enough to say. All right, the ECA, or let's do Atlantic first. The Atlantic Hockey Tournament at the Harbor Center in Buffalo, New York, which is the home ice of the Canisius College Golden Griffins. Robert Morris faces American International College at 4:35 Eastern on Friday. Niagara and RIT face off at 7:35 in the late game, and then they will play on Saturday at the same building at 7:05 for the conference championship game, and the only spot in the NCAA tournament to come from this conference. Jason Scales, which two teams between Robert Morris, AIC, Niagara, and RIT play in the championship game, and which one of them wins? Though I already know your answer to that second question.
Yep, it will be a battle of initials, and alphabetically speaking, AIC will come out ahead of RIT in the final.
I agree.
Make sense?
I agree. I completely agree that is what we will end up seeing. All right, the tournament that you will be going to at 1980 rink Herb Brooks Arena in Lake Placid, New York, one of the shrines of the sport, will have Brown play Cornell. So we have two Ivy League schools facing off at 4 p.m., one who was kind of expected to be here and one who's completely shot in the dark. Facing off at 4 p.m. up in Lake Placid. I figure that'll be a Cornell-heavy crowd because every crowd they play at is a Cornell-heavy crowd. Harvard and Clarkson will be the second game at 7:30. So, Jason, you will be covering this tournament. You will be up in Lake Placid. Of these teams, in your professional and personal opinion, which of these teams will be playing in the ECAC championship game, and which one of these teams will win the ECAC?
I think that, as I said earlier, Brown season will end on Friday. So that will be Cornell. I just think they're too deep. As good as Quinnipiac was and the whole story of Brown beating them without Prisky, without Fortunato and Shiplow, a healthier team, and I think that will be the difference. And then the other game, when Harvard beat Clarkson at home, I didn't think Kylie played well. Sorry. And still having questions about Harvard goalie. I don't want to, but I'm going to. So I think it's going to be Cornell Clarkson for the final with Clarkson prevailing.
Cornell Clarkson.
Yeah, I just think Clarkson, they haven't quite put it together, and I think they're starting to now. But that's just my opinion.
Okay.
Which is why I'm here, right?
Yeah. I'm going to pretty much entirely disagree with your assessment. I think Brown pulls the upset over Cornell on Friday. And my reason for that is because Cornell, over the last couple of years, from when they their team in 2017 didn't put it together against Harvard or Lowell, they didn't put it together last season in the tournament against either Princeton or BU, and they were better than Princeton. They're top to bottom. They were a better team last year than Princeton. I see a lot of the same problems for them. Just I don't know if I see it with this core for them to be other than a really good and really competitive team. And I know that every single person from Ithaca is looking at me and hating me right now. I don't see it with this Cornell team. I don't see it. Brown doesn't have as much talent. True. Gavin Nieto has played over his head. I think he's got one more game in him, and I think that the Brown Bears will move on to the ECAC championship game. And I think they'll face Harvard. I think Cam Gornett has just barely enough to get them over the finish line, and I've never been fully sold on Clarkson. They ran into similar problems for me against both the they ran into similar problems last year against Princeton in the championship game and against Providence the next week in the NCAA tournament. And I see a lot of those kind of similar problems of if you can get in the way of their offense and interrupt them just enough, and if you give Harvard too many power play opportunities, they'll murder you. So I think it'll be Brown and Harvard playing for the ECAC championship, and I think Harvard will win that one.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right.
Mm-hmm.
But, yep.
All right. And let's
go ahead.
And let's close up with the Hockey East Tournament at TD Garden, which, as I mentioned earlier, is basically the Beanpot plus UMass. So we get a gem. They're two teams. They share a brotherhood. They love each other dearly. Boston University and Northeastern at 4 p.m. Like I said, a lot of love to go around the building in this game. And then the second game will be between Boston College and the University of Massachusetts Minutemen. That will be at 7:30, assuming that there's no overtime in the first game, which it's BU and Northeastern at the Beanpot. There's guaranteed overtime at that one. So we all know how this is going to work. So, Jason Scales, of those four teams whom you have seen throughout this whole season, and knowing that we are both biased hacks here, which of these teams will be playing for the Hockey East Championship game on Saturday, and which of these teams will win?
It will be UMass versus Northeastern, with UMass taking their first ever Hockey East Tournament championship.
Okay.
To celebrate Hockey East 35th season.
Cool. There's a part of me that thinks, man, I would not be surprised to see BC pull the upset, but I am still going to take UMass for my my ultimate prediction. Between BU and Northeastern, no one can call me a biased hack for this one because I've said each of the last 2 years that I want BU to win in the Beanpot against Northeastern, and known that they were not going to win each of their last two Beanpot games against Northeastern. So no one can call me a biased hack on this one. I think BU is playing their best hockey of the season. I think Jake Ottinger is going to steal a game against Northeastern, and I still think UMass ends up winning Hockey East on Saturday over BU. I think if it gets into a gun show. I think if it gets into a gun show, which is certainly possible between the Minutemen and the Boston University Terriers, I still think that the Minutemen can outgun them and can take them out, even with all the talent on that BU team. So I agree with the ultimate outcome. I just slightly disagree with how we get there.
Yeah, no, I like the sound of it. I do think that, of all the games being played this weekend, for the knock that has been against Hockey East the last couple of years for the product, not living up to what it usually is. I think this foursome is as good as it'll get, and is to me, I think if I had to pay for a game, those would be the ones that I'd pay for, because I just think it's going to be an awesome weekend in Boston. And
it'll be
as much as I'm looking forward to going to Lake Placid and driving 10 hours, I think that all three games will be spectacular in hockey. I really do, because BC's feeling it, UMass is feeling it, BU. I know, as up and down as they've been, it's the Garden, and they play well in the Garden. And, I think I would say Ayamonte will have a big game for BU, because he just always plays well in the Garden.
Yeah, I can see that.
And, I'm envious of you, because you'll be there.
I mean, hey, it's not like you get a bad time going up.
No, absolutely not. I know that. And I am looking forward to it. I just, excuse me, I don't have anything to drink. Oh, sorry.
No worries, man, you're good.
I just think the games will be better. I mean, because I know what we said, but I think, like, of all the games, that Brown versus Cornell, that could be one of those 6-0 games by the second period.
I guess we'll have to wait and see
what I mean?
What's happening.
Yeah. But I think, I don't even know. I guess I'll leave it at that.
Well, we'll find out, I guess. Jason Scales, you can follow all of his stuff at Pucking Off on both the Twitter and on the Instagram feed. You can follow all of his writing on his website. He has his own blog at puckingoff.com. He writes for us at insidehockey.com/Jason Scales. You can follow all of my stuff on the social media sphere at CC Lynch Wall and at on the Twitter and at CC Lynch 16 on Instagram. You can follow this podcast on both the socials, Twitter and Instagram, at University Puck. We post a lot in the college hockey subreddit. We spend a lot of time discussing this sport, and we can't say enough to express our gratitude for the opportunity to talk about this sport and for the people who listen to this. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeart, YouTube, and Blog Talk Radio. Thank you so very much. Best of luck to everybody playing this weekend, and best of luck to all of the teams, players, coaches, and all the rest for what promises to be a very fun weekend of college hockey. And in the words of the great Tim Williams, keep your head up and your hits clean.